We're ready?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thanks for your patience. Welcome to Historic Preservation Commission for Monday, August 13th, 2018. Roll call, members, Alderman Stoyer, I'm here. We have Dave Boyce. Here. Susan Lee.
Here.
And Dennis Doucette. Here. All present and accounted for. Can I move ahead? The approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to that effect?
Move to approve.
By Alderman, or by Mr. Boyce. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dennis Doucette. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That passes. Approval of the minutes from the June 11th HPC meeting and the June 15th, 2018 Special Historic Preservation meeting. Do we have that meeting?
Wasn't that
That was
canceled?
pretty short one.
Yeah, that was a real short
Or
one.
was that?
No, we didn't have a
second
quorum,
one?
so we still had minutes for it because we recorded the
Okay,
meeting.
all right, so, okay. Do we have a motion to that effect?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Doucette, do we have a second?
Second.
Susan Lee, all in favor? Aye, all opposed? That passes. Regular business, consideration with possible action on a future building permit application for renovations at 218, 220, and 222, 224 North Adams Street. We have folks here for that.
Sir.
All right, want to, for the record, just state your name and address, and, you know, whoever would like to speak on it. Let me just take a quick look here. Okay, the item, the consideration with possible action on a future building permit application for renovations at 218, 220, and 222, 224 North Adams Street. So before we get into it, I don't know if you could just give us your name, address, and then a little bit of the project.
Sure. Patrick Neff, I'm the owner of Republic and the building that's next to it, the two properties in question. Address is the one that's stated 218 North Adams. Architect,
Ben Schenkelberg.
Ben, okay, hi Ben.
And engineer Ben Gerald.
Hey Ben. Let me see the Bens.
Easy to remember.
And,
Contractor Craig Cornell from Zize Construction.
okay, all right.
so the general scope of the project is to redo the building, to repurpose the building into a usable product for us. It will include the complete renovation of the 222 and 224 property, with us joining the two properties together. There'll be three entrances that are going to be joining the properties together.
Okay. I notice, so if you can,
Correct.
if you can describe it a little bit, we have a picture here.
Sure, you have the Republic's existing building to the right, which is untouched. And then the primary focus of the renovation is the old Louis Bouderie building, which is at 22 and 224. That will be to redo the property as a whole. So it is a new front, a new roof, covering up the rear, expanding out the back, complete gutting of all of the floors, and then a remodeling of the first floor, the main floor, to be used for Republic's purpose. The second and third stories will be abandoned, considered attic.
Okay. You know, I think I've heard little bits and pieces from, you know, different folks over time on the project itself. You realize too that, you know, you're part of a historic district on the east side. So was there going to be much in terms of restoration or rehabbing of, if you will, of the facade? What is your?
Most of the facade has to come down because it's not safe. So the majority of the facade will be removed.
Give me a second here. Mike, I got 3 more meetings tonight. Is there any way you could reset my password for me? I need that, because for whatever reason, it's not working. So, anyway, go ahead, I'm sorry.
The facade itself, the majority of it, about 60% of it, has to come down because it's not structurally sound. The other portion, which would be to the furthest north of the building, where there is an entrance there today, that is a little bit of a question mark on whether or not it can stay, but The only thing that will be kept would be the mason work that's on the bottom, the stonework that's there. What is the stone term? The
Minnesota,
Mankato?
Mankato
The
stone.
Mankato stone, which
Okay.
is, which I want to keep. The building, the way it's set up right now, if you've ever drive by it, it has two entrances, or technically three entrances to it. That Mankato stone covers and dives into each of those.
Right.
So those will be stripped off and saved and repurposed to go somewhere else on the property, on the fascia, to put it back on.
To give it some consistency, maybe?
Yeah, between the building that sits next to it being Republic, so that there's some consistency between the two.
Okay.
But as far as the fascia itself, the fascia will not be kept.
Well, like I said, when you go, I've walked by that property many times over the years, and it's, there's some inconsistency, you really don't get a sense of unity, I mean, so it's, in effect, you own
Correct.
both properties, but it's not.
Right.
And Ben, I don't know if I could ask you, what's your take on, because you've worked on different projects in the past, these type of things. I don't know if anybody else can add to that, unless you're
Okay, so I can give you a quick shot of, I've been doing architecture for 65 years now, and it's still going. I have an office in Massachusetts for the last 28 years and worked from Boston to New York. Doing a lot of historic buildings out there, of course.
right.
Been a member of the National Historic Society, got all those decal.
Okay.
One for the state of Massachusetts, historical, and they're very touchy and go.
Right.
And so probably 350 buildings during that career, some here in Green Bay, but mainly all of those out there in Connecticut and Massachusetts.
Are you still based out east?
Yeah, I still have an office there. And so it always comes down to, do we save it? What do we do with it? And how do we make it work? This building, the vacant building that Pat has, is in tough shape. Honestly, I brought a brick here just to show you how tough it is. It's 1 inch closer to sand than it is brick. It's had 2 fires, one according to the stuff we received back in the 30s, and then I think probably in the 70s maybe there was another fire. Remember when all the Lyric Lounge and WG&R Furniture and all those buildings downtown, every Friday there was a fire, it seemed, about 8 weeks in a row, remember that?
What year was that?
It's sometime in the 70s, I believe,
Okay,
right?
I moved here in '81, so, but,
Anyway, every Friday night, there was a building burned down in downtown Green Bay for 7 weeks in a row. And this was one of them.
yeah,
And so they raised, the whole building is framed inside with wood. And when that last fire took place, the roof was destroyed.
okay,
And whoever the owners were then and the contractor, they put on steel joist roof that spans full 44 feet, the width of the building.
okay,
And that was established setting on walls. The unfortunate thing is the walls on Bernard Shilber's side, on the north side, that ended up being a cavity wall when we cut into it. And cavity wall means that they're both sharing the same wall. And there was some historic stuff that we were given about these 2 buildings, Pat's building and on the corner Bernard
right,
Shilber's. So when we had our demo guys drill a hole in the wall, the roofs are only sitting on 8 inches of brick. That if we took,
what's that?
4 inches of brick.
yeah, 4 inches of
4
brick,
on-
excuse me.
4
but
on
it's-
either side.
It's void, yeah, there's a void in the middle. And originally, Pat and we all talked about knocking this whole thing down to 1 floor and kind of copy Republic and everything else, but you really can't economically, and it'd be touch and go for everybody, to take the building down. So we're retaining that north wall and staying away from it. And that's why you see that little blurb when you look at the elevations there. There's a canopy out on the side. We're gonna try to keep all that intact to brace up that north wall. And it should do it, is what we know. And if not, we'll find a way to do it.
So Bernard Showers is right here.
Right there.
Yeah, and I mean,
Just state your name for the record.
Ben Gerald, professional engineer.
Okay.
The issue there between those two buildings that Ben's getting at is because they share a common wall, it's not which one's holding up which. You know what I mean? They're not separate structural systems, even though it's two different addresses, two different buildings. They're kind of stuck together.
So you found this out while you were probing, so to speak? I
We
mean,
were testing,
Yeah.
You had no idea it was like that?
No.
So when you bought this building 10 years ago, you had no idea of that?
No,
Okay.
no.
Well-
No, we didn't have any clue back then. We didn't do that type of investigation.
Well,
Lesson learned on
Yeah.
our side, but it never even was the thought, to be honest.
that seems to be kind of an unusual type of architecture. I don't know.
Yeah.
David?
I've got a question on that. I don't know anything about architecture or construction, but with my attitude from, just not being associated with anything, is it possible to have like a form on both sides of the existing wall and just pump concrete in there and rebar?
We sort of kicked that idea around, but it's really narrow space, and then you're kind of going with, you don't exactly know, how do you make sure that concrete gets all the way down? If you do get it all the way down, how do you engineer that to make sure that it's right? And then where, you gotta figure out where that property line, and then whose is that? You know what I mean?
So it cuts,
Because it's the two on both, it's kind of somewhere in between, you can't take one down and leave the other, or vice versa.
I've seen on the internet, you put a wall on both sides of whatever the hell is there, and then you have a tube that comes all the way down the bottom, and you just generally just pump it full of concrete.
Sure. I mean, you can do that, but like I said, there's only, the gap in between is not a lot.
No.
It's real narrow.
You'd have to put the things on the outside, like 4 inches on either side of what was already there.
Right, but then you're working with Berner
Another
Schober's building
property.
to the north,
Right.
which is not Pat's property, and it's a working building.
And
It's a finished office.
It's a finished office,
are
yeah.
they the Bernard Schobers? Have you talked to them about this
Oh, yeah.
project?
Oh, yeah.
Quite a bit?
oh, yeah.
Yeah, the structural people were involved too. They were as surprised as we were.
Okay.
We knew, they were the ones to first learn about it because the demo person drilled straight into someone's office.
Oh.
So when they popped through the wall on the second floor, the drill went straight through that single course and went right through theirs and popped out and collapsed, plaster and stuff like that down into someone's office area. Our buildings are not aligned. Your floor levels are different between these proproperties.
So two different architects, two different time periods. Do you know when
Yeah.
both buildings were built offhand? Do you know?
They don't. They in fact were involved with the renovation of this building at some point in time, but could not find their records on it because of its age. We had their structural people come over. So they've been working with us to figure out exactly what is the best course of action. There is some legality issues when you start to have, which I do not want to
Yeah.
trouble people with. When you have these buildings that are adjacent to each other, if you can argue all day long about whose responsibility is what. And I don't want to get into that type of disagreement with my neighbors. BSA is a good neighbor to us. Just want the problem fixed because long-term, the building needs to stay for another 30 years. Right now, as the state that it's in, now that we found out how bad it is, now our hand has been forced essentially. We have to do something with that building.
Is there any, historic tax credits or anything that you're looking at, or?
No. No. We knew that the building would not
Because
contribute.
of its alterations?
Because of its alterations, and the only way I would have maybe in theory considered it is if I could take it back to what it was originally,
Right.
which is prior to the Art Deco, which,
I was gonna ask Jason that. Jason, do you know anything about that? Those buildings?
Yes, I do.
Could you elaborate?
It's currently a contributing structure within the district as a 1935-ish Art Deco facade building. That facade having been installed or designed by Berner Schobers, or its antecedents. Any effort to change the facade to what they currently propose or to its original state in the 1870s would result in it becoming non-contributing. It's contributing because of its current Art Deco facade.
So, okay.
Which you're planning to remove?
Yes.
Strip everything off and then you're going to use to drive it?
We're going over it with Evis, yes.
Well, it's kind of an interesting conundrum, because, you know, we're trying to maintain, you know, the integrity of the historic area, and I understand that you've got issues with the building itself, you know, safety issues and whatever. And Ben, you know, you being an architect, you know, looking at both sides of this, you know, one thing that Green Bay is doing, we are working on getting a preservation ordinance on the books, and it should be happening very, very shortly. It's not there right now, so we're advisory right now. I mean, you guys go walk out and do whatever you want. Well, with that being said, we're working in Green Bay, you know, we've had quite a number of alterations in Green Bay over the years, and now we're looking at, you know, trying to get a consistent setup, you know, for historic structures. So, I guess the hard thing I'm having with this is looking at the historic end, as Jason has brought forward, and then also the safety issue. I mean, is there any way that any of these alterations could be made and maintain the historical integrity that you feel? Do you feel that could happen, or is that ship
Well-
sailed for you?
Well, that it becomes, anything is based off of how much money you want to spend. The problem that we have is the area that is being removed, to rebuild that, the difference in scope on our project is 6 figures. It's $100,000 more to try to attempt to put brick back on to that building, to a facade that I wouldn't put back to Art Deco, personally. That's my,
Right.
I don't dislike Art Deco, there's nothing wrong with it, but that's not consistent with what Republic's current building looks like. So I would rather that the property be brought onto the tax roll as a contributing product to the city and to
Right,
us.
contributing
right?
as a taxpaying entity,
Well, sure,
but
I mean-
not so much a historic building.
Correct, right. The historic thing, I'm a believer in the historic preservation, because that's why I kept Republic the way that I did when I first renovated
Right.
Republic. We didn't touch the exterior at all.
Right.
But we have our limits too. We can't afford to go and try to rebuild that and make it financially feasible. So it is a dollars and cents from that
Right.
perspective.
Is there a structural report on the condition?
I've looked at it and I wrote a letter. I mean, basically, there's a couple of things going on there. I mean, there's some loose bricks and whatnot in there, which is what it is. But when you are down on the building, on the ground rather, and you look up, it kind of bows out in the middle. And when you go up on the second floor, looking up at the third floor, then there's a beam line that sort of runs down the middle. And that beam, the wall's pulling away from the beam line. So whatever connection of the wall to the rest of the floor line, there's something happening there that's compromised it. And we haven't ripped apart enough yet to determine exactly what's going on there. And the problem with when you start ripping something like that apart is when do you stop? You know, because right now, it is what it is. You start pulling things apart, and then all of a sudden, you can make things worse by going
But
that
I
route.
guess our position as far as the historical integrity would be greatly relaxed if there was a structural report to support what your findings are, or what your.
But, I mean, I've written this letter here that I can give you guys, which basically says that there's a big bulge and that it's pulling off, and that we don't know what's going on in there until we
So-
rip it all apart, basically.
David, well, Dennis, are you still, let David ask a question, and then we'll get back to Dennis. Go ahead, David.
Well, in your professional opinion, how long do you think that building will stand before it's unsafe or it has to come down?
That's one of those things where it's, right, you know, failures and deterioration like that is slow until it isn't, you know? And
It's
so,
catastrophic, all of a sudden, because of some issue.
right, you kind of go past a point. Is it falling down today or tomorrow? No.
It's like that place that sells wine downtown, the winery or whatever. There was some equipment nearby and the cupola started cracking on
Sure.
the side, you know, and stuff like that, you know, it could be vulnerable that way too, so that's more of a consideration than longevity seems to be more of an
And-
important factor than the facade.
Yeah, I mean, I'll share a story that's different, but sort of gets to the point in that a couple of years ago, there's a hotel in Algoma, the Hotel Stebbins.
I know that.
And if you go in their dining room, maybe 5 years ago, a post appeared. And the reason is because the owner, they had renovated the front part of that hotel a number of years ago and had redone all the rooms. And there was this weird back that they didn't know what to do with. And they turned it into kind of fishing group rooms where like 10 people could stay in one room. And all the contractor did was they went in there, they pulled off the plaster, they hung drywall. I got a call from the contractor, and he said, Ben, you need to come out here. All we've done is take off drywall, and the floor dropped 4 inches. And I went out there, and somebody had done something like 20 or 30 years ago after we figured out what was going on, and they took out that post, and they sort of did some things in the roof that didn't actually do anything. And the walls inside were kind of holding it up. And basically I said, put that, you know, we looked around and figured out that there had been a post there, had been taken out. I said, we got to get something back in there temporarily at least to make it safe. And that's kind of one of those cases where it's fast, it doesn't do anything until all of a sudden it does.
One of the things that is making this thing more difficult is, on one side, there's a building that's almost as tall as Pat's building, and that's taking care of the north wall, then there are a party wall, basically. The back is 45 feet, roughly 45 feet high, and it's been taking water over the top because the
Yeah.
roof pitches from Adams Street to the alley. We're gonna take all of that into account, strengthen that wall back there by covering it with insulation in a metal panel and changing the direction of the water and the drainage so it doesn't run down that wall. That all has to be tuck pointed otherwise, and that'd be just another big dollar item. Then on Pat's side, where Republic is, he has a building that's 1 story at the street and 2 stories about halfway back, right? And so we've got a lot of things going on. Now, the 3rd floor of this building have no walls in it. So the steel joists are sitting 4 inches of bearing on that wall and go all the way across 44 feet, sitting on 4 inches of bearing on their party wall. And that's 40, 50 feet in the air, or whatever it is. If you look, it's a pretty tall building.
Surprising it isn't.
There ain't a hell of a lot of stability there if you start chipping around. If you leave everything as it is, it's all probably gonna be okay, but there are no internal walls. It's one big room up there, so there's nothing to give it some strength laterally and horizontally in any other direction you wanna go. Then you drop to the 2nd floor, and the 2nd floor is framed with wood. And the 2x12s, full 2x12s, the old real dimensional lumber is running east and,
North and south.
north and south, bearing also on the party walls. And when they had the fire, if you go up in there, you'll see all kinds of patching. I brought you a brick from there. That black mess is what you find in those cavity walls from the roof all the way down as far as you can go. And when they laid this brick, and this is a pretty soft brick, if you hit this, it'll probably fall apart. these are meant to be left inside a building. You wouldn't put these on the outside of a building. You know, they're different density.
Interior bricks versus
An interior brick.
Yeah.
And the whole building is built like that, in the wing walls and the back wall. The front wall, which, when they had a fire and Werner Schober did whatever they did to the front of it, they basically, I feel, and I think everybody agreed, they came back and put a curtain wall on it, which would be, they just ripped the front down and put something up there. They have no way to attach that because the floor joists go this way. The wall is going this way towards the west. So we've looked at that wall in different levels, and it's bowed. And it's bowed out, and basically, it probably has been fine, because if this took place back in the 30s, that's 70 years or more than that. And basically, it's worked. But you can't push it back because it's gonna fall apart. You can't anchor it because there's nothing to anchor it to. If you go over there and look on the first floor where the two retail stores are, because it has two entrances, underneath at 10 foot is storefront quarter-inch glass in aluminum frame. There are no columns, there are no beams, there's nothing. We don't have a clue what's there. And we weren't ready to poke a hole in it until we get the okay to do it, because the hole may get bigger real fast. But if you go back 13 feet, there's a column and a beam. And that, how they ever attached it is beyond me, and it's been there, and I got these photographs.
Did the fire compromise, obviously must have compromised the safety of the
It got
walls?
all over the. you know
They've
what I
had,
can
they've had
say.
a number of fires in Green Bay over the years.
Yeah.
You know, the fire department did a story about that not too long back, and I'm wondering how many times this building may have been affected by
Our
fire.
building and Republic's building in 218 also burned.
Right.
That building.
That was in the 70s?
I don't know exactly when that happened. I do know that similar to the Louis Bouderie building, the front half of Republic is also steel trusses. Until I get to the second, about halfway into the building where it goes to 2 stories, that's all wood. And all of it, when we gutted that building, was black. So everything was burned back there. So I think what happened in Republic's building was whatever fire they had there took the roof out in the front. So that whole area was all replaced. And then the rear was kept. And the wood being as big as it was didn't have to be replaced.
BSA's attic is all burnt and charred.
State your name and,
Craig Cornell from Zize Construction.
okay.
We were hired by BSA to go up into their attic, existing attic, which is adjacent to this space, which has 4-inch bearing onto the brick common wall. We had to reinforce with it's still wood, so there's a bunch of 2x12 Douglas fir reinforcement, because they were putting on a few HVAC roof top units, brand new ones, up on that unit, or up on BSA's side. And so their engineers looked at it and they hired us to reinforce all that. And the charred wood is still there, so whatever, it kind of makes sense, whatever fire that was, it'd be interesting to know more of the history. But it might have been all one fire and it kind of skipped over the wall.
Well, you know, sometimes you don't
Yeah.
know that until you open it up. So
Yeah.
you know, I think one of the things that we look at, I mean, we look at the facades quite a bit, you know, interior wise. I mean, a lot of structures, you know, they'll do other work to bring it forward, the projects, but I guess, you know, and the committee might chime in too, but, you know, we look at the facades of the building, and I know that, Jason, you had a point about that too. You were saying that it was 1935 Art Deco. You know, we're looking more to that. You know, I think the whole thing with the structure, interior wise, I mean, I think whatever, as far as I'm concerned, whatever you need to do to make that viable, you know, I think, you know, I'm good with that.
One of the things is photograph. I've been looking at it, I was given us about a month ago, and it shows the two buildings. I don't know if you can did.
No.
It shows the two buildings. And I kept looking at this, and the picture was probably taken maybe in the 30s or maybe before that. And then I put it under the glass and blew it up. And this whole top facade is a drawing on top of a photograph.
Yes, the photograph is probably from the 1890s.
Right.
It's been touched by.
It's been
hand.
touched up.
And it's very irrelevant because that facade is no longer a contributing component of the building.
Right. And what I'm getting at is, this was drawn on top of it.
Hmm.
And I can say that a lot of buildings that I've been involved with, that finally ended up going through the state to get money and then going to the federal government to get approvals, the message was simple. And it's been hotels, it's been post offices, it's been all kinds of buildings. Whatever's there, if it can be repaired within reason, fine. If it can't, don't come back and build a building with a fake front because you have some photographs of what was done back whenever.
Yeah.
Make it totally different. If it's red brick, do it in another brick. If it's no windows, put in windows. So that people don't look at it and say, you know, exactly what I'm saying about this rendering is, are you telling me that whatever was built in, I'm gonna use the number 1850, and the front end fell down, that if I put a brand-new front on it with all the masonry and all the changes and all the insulated windows and the insulation and all the stuff that goes into the fire codes today, which they didn't have, that's what they want? That isn't necessarily what they want in all historic buildings. If it really had some history and a bunch of people got shot there, or there was a war, a bank robbery, or whatever, maybe it's different. But I can tell you, and I can, if it came to that, I can show you pictures of that, of buildings that got approved all the way through the program by both organizations, that making it different, so people look at it and say, that was built in 1850, that was built in 2017, but we know that because the 2017 one fell apart, never existed, was impossible to recreate, and nobody cared financially, and on and on and on it goes. And in Pat's situation, we're looking at, and I said it a couple of weeks ago here, it's a small area, it's not very wide, if you really look at it, it's 44 feet, it's not much. It's trying to be two things, profitable for him and sensible architecturally to do it. We went back today, Ben and I went back today and looked at Bernard Schover's building on the top. You know, that's up to them, and they're good guys and they're working with us. About time they get up on a ladder and do a little maintenance too, because there's things going on in this upper facade that was drawn on this building. And it's different than this picture, way different. It's never done with the quality of all the stonework that's down on the first 2 floors or 3 floors. And so it was kind of like a copycat, but we're only gonna spend so much money doing it. And I know Bernard Schover, I worked there one time, I know Len Schover well, and all those guys when they're alive, and my old boss when they're alive, they all grew up in Green Bay. They were all good architects, very quality people. Back then, they probably had a fire, they were involved in it, they're called over to put a front on the building, and they did something. But it certainly isn't the caliber of historic architecture that I'd go crazy over. It's pretty bland, and it's got a few little twinkles in it. His building, which is the Republic 1-story, has got a lot of twinkles in it. It's got ceramic tile on it, it's got cut stone on it, it's got all kinds of stuff on it. And yet, it was remodeled when we did it, what, 10 years ago? And we put in new windows and doors, and nobody got excited over it, but we cleaned it up, and it looks pretty good. And I'm lobbying for the fact that I work for him, is that I want something nice too. But sometimes you have to do a drastic change to save the whole system. The system being, if we do something, can we afford it? If we do something, will we stay in business? And if we do something, will it be maintenance-free and happy, happy, happy? The average person walking down the street will never know the difference. We'll make it look really nice. But we can't do what's there, rip it down and put it back up. Because somewhere behind that wall, above those windows, when we ripped that down, we're gonna find two things, and Ben and I agree, and I think Craig does. There's either a giant truss that they buried back in there that nobody knows about, because you can go 34 feet without a column and have 40 feet of brick on top of it. Or there's a big beam back in there. One or the other. And what are you gonna do with it when you pull all this stuff down? You're stuck. You're gonna have a building without a front on it.
It's definitely, I mean, we've had a lot of different projects that come before us. This is unique. You know, I mean, we're not trying to be obstructionist or anything,
Right,
but
I
I,
understand.
we're just trying to look at this from the aspect of our community and what we've had and what we, this is- Susan, do you have any thoughts on this, or anybody? Dennis?
I'm concerned about how the exterior is going to look. I know you said you want, there'll be something nice, but I just can't help but think with that ephes exterior that it's just gonna be kind of devoid
Well, you
of
can take,
character.
not to interrupt, you can take EFS, and it's all over America, and right here in
I
Green
know
Bay.
about all the lawsuits.
But there are different, what?
Lawsuits years ago from,
Well, I
well, we
don't-
won't even get into that, but
Okay,
I'm
that's
just, I'm
something
coming
else.
from the appearance and this neighborhood and the thoughts of what has happened to our downtown Green Bay and how it has been destroyed, all the historic buildings we lost, and I just look at this exterior, and I understand what you're saying about the brick there and the problems. But I can appreciate that, but I'm concerned with what you want to do on the exterior, what you want the exterior material to be and how it's
Well-
going to look.
Money is always a big issue. And secondly, you can take EFS, drive it, stow, or whatever it is, and you can put all kinds of textures to the face of it. You can add granite to it, chips to it, you can do it smooth, you can do it like cut stone, that you kind of almost have to go up and beat on it to see if it is cut stone. There's a lot of different finishes you can put on it. The product sometimes gets a bad name because of bad installers. And
Yeah, see,
that,
what we're hearing is that's what's going on, and we see this picture, I don't have any more real detail about what you're thinking about.
we're trying to make it look like stone,
Okay, see, that,
cut
we
stone.
didn't know. Yeah, to me, it looks like a commercial building I see in the suburb somewhere, you know, with what you
Yeah.
see with.
Flat
what people
faced,
do.
no
Exactly.
dimension,
And that's
things
why
like
I look
that.
at this, I go.
Correct.
Ugh.
The straight line drawings are tough to get dimension off of. When you look at the full drawing package, because I struggle with the same thing. When Ben first came to me, like, I do not want a flat-faced front. It has to have dimensions. That's why we're putting windows in. The windows will be lit to make it look like people live there. There has to be dimensions to the sills, the signage up there. I mean, everything has got to have depth to it. I don't want something that's just plain and flat. So as far as the texture goes, the texture isn't something that we've finalized on yet. Craig and I haven't gotten that detailed on it, other than to say that we have the provision to do whatever texture we see fit. But from a dimensional standpoint, the main drawing shows the dimension. Does it not? Your main drawing? Because I agree with you. I don't want the
Yeah.
boring story.
Yeah, I look at this, and again, I think, oh,
Right.
this is something I see in some office building in
Sure.
a suburb.
Yep.
And why would I want this in downtown in a historic neighborhood?
There's a difference between equal one more time. One more, there you go.
It's gonna appear to have stone banding,
Yeah, this is the easy
lentil courses above the windows and sills, stone sills. And so this is gonna be a band that isn't flat, it's gonna stand out.
How much is that, how much of those sills come out from the building?
The building actually goes back from the sidewalk to the glass windows. The big windows that are there is 13 feet, 14 feet, because we have a patio out in front.
Okay.
And the reason we have a patio is, I do a lot of bars and restaurants for some reason or other, is if you don't have a patio now, on a day like today, you might as well turn your lights off until it starts raining. Because that's what people want to do.
Well, I was thinking more up here, on the second.
Up there,
Yep,
Whatever.
this shows the,
just push
give me
way
a-
back from the street, 13 feet.
you're looking.
We're not talking about the sills themselves coming out from the building.
Yeah, this
Right,
is
this
the,
section shows it here, so this is
the
looking
section.
that way.
So it's a couple inches, a 2 inch, but it's, you know, the depth is what, about 8.
So
10
the
inch.
sills come out, but the windows are recessed a little
We've
bit.
set back in, right.
Okay.
And then the wall is also set back twice, down at the street, up to the bottom of the
Sorry, here.
first floor, or second floor, there's an overhang of 6 feet of that building that you can't really see on a drawing like that. I built a little scale model of it, maybe I should. It got changed, but it gives you a better
This-
dimension.
This entrance is the existing entrance that remains with the canopy. And then the stone, this is the existing stone.
I know you're trying to get some
Existing
consistency
stone.
between this structure and,
Right.
I understand that you're trying to do that. Then this will be one business then,
Correct. Yep.
because you own both lots. The fact is, you couldn't do anything beforehand because they were different owners, was that part of it? Or
No,
you've owned it for 10 years?
I've owned it for 10 years.
Right,
yeah.
but in that 10-year period, was there any other thoughts of anything? Or, I mean, you've been working on this, just trying to figure it out.
We've gone through about seven to eight
Different
variations of product there, whether it be white boxing the bottom, apartments, condos,
Yeah, what is the talk for up here? What-
nothing.
Attic
They'll
for
be
now.
abandoned.
It's just,
Ever.
yeah, just cut it off and,
Well,
Essentially, it's an
but
attic.
if you build this, what will be up here?
Attic.
What's up there today, everything that's done up there will be used to brace the building as a whole. So it will not be functional space. Second and third floor will not be functional.
it's unoccupied without any access to it, other than, I don't know if you have a drop down or anything.
Yeah.
For fire.
Right, there's
Access for
a fire, there's ways to get fire in there, but the windows that are all getting repopulated, all those windows will be lit at night. It's really to give the impression of that there is someone that is living there potentially.
There's not actually anything
I don't know if
there.
you've ever heard of a project like that. I mean, I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm just saying that's kind of a unique,
1001
A unique
club,
view.
like that, they seal off.
1001
the
club?
top floor.
Yeah.
The city wanted them to refurnish it, and it cost way too much, so they sealed it off, but then.
well, they sealed it off, but.
That's how people crept up in that space instead of fire evacuation.
Dennis, you got anything?
I guess I'm gonna be in a minority here because I don't see this facade being unattractive compared to what it is right now.
I didn't say it was unattractive, I'm just saying,
No, I mean,
I didn't see
even
that.
from an integrity perspective, I'm in the middle, I'm 2/3 of the way through with the hotel rental on the LACO.
Oh.
I'm repurposing that, and
Yeah.
that'll be opening in December. And Walter Schrader, his buildings were pretty bland anyway. I mean, they were
Sure.
Pretty much boxes, so I can relate to this somewhat. You guys, by the way, do a great job there.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan of your operation. You run a good operation.
Thank you.
I think the positives far outweigh the negatives. I do think a structural report would have given us an easier path to saying yes. But on the whole, I'm fine with this.
If you think about it, this room, I don't know, if you count all the tile, it's probably what, 30-some foot wide or
Yeah.
longer, right? This whole building isn't much wider than this room is long. And as I feel, I get into my projects and I do very well with them. And I just see this building, because we're looking at a flat drawing, I made a cardboard model of a couple different versions we had, right? We did 2 different ones. And it kind of shows this in and out. We made some changes after, but if we had it, I think you'd get a better feel. But you want to have some dimension. Right now, it's just a flat street, all including Associated Bank's neighbor to him and down Bernard Schubert. It's just one big flat street with a bunch of windows in it and some offsets. This has some real offsets in it. It can be landscaped, it can be lit, it can be put together so that people driving by say, now that's
So-
where I want to eat. That is my kind of restaurant.
But that room, those two areas, or that area will not be utilized ever? I mean, it just.
Upstairs?
Yeah,
No.
it'll just because of the safety.
Well, code access egress is a huge
Just-
hurdle, and
It's just, it's
safety.
unusable.
Well, it requires it requires an elevator. If you start, I've been down this path before, and when you start to look at the numbers, even in a perfect world, where if you had apartments or condoed, the building will never cash flow. It just won't. The property, it drives my budget, it triples my budget to do it, and there's just no way. There's no way that we would do it. It would be foolhardy on our part to try to develop it all the way. We would never make any money on that property.
Okay.
So, it's just too
Well,
much.
We hear, yeah, I mean, we're hearing all this. I mean, we do hear you. It's just, David?
Is there any architectural comments about snow loading, worst case snow load, in relation to the projected ultimate capacity of the roof to hold a load of snow?
So, I
How
mean-
much slope do you have there?
I don't know anything about Pat's current building, other than it's there and it has the snow. The existing building has got some bar joists on it. This one's the highest one, so it's not gonna really, I mean, this building, the snow load, it's higher than Bergeshowers, it's higher than Pat's existing building. So this is really getting, 30 PSF or whatever the typical snow load is.
No drift.
So there's no drift. This building is making all the drift, not getting any of the drift. So from the snow load standpoint, it's not,
The wind pretty much clears the snow off the roof then.
I mean, you're gonna have the code prescribed 30 PSF, give or take, that's up there.
Okay. So you're pretty safe on the roof then?
Yeah, I mean, we're not changing anything with that. That part of it hasn't changed.
Okay. That's good to know. That makes a big difference, the drift patterns.
Yeah, I mean, because, the roof is all staying same, existing. When the drift that's made on the building is gonna be, or made on this whole block, is really gonna be on the lower buildings, not on the higher buildings.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, we're getting closer, I hope. Jason, I still, you brought up some points. Jason works as a historic preservation officer in our planning office.
He keeps us straight.
He does, at times, yeah. But anyway, you've heard all the arguments,
Yes.
so can you lend a little credence toward us as far as your
Sure.
thoughts on this?
I guess it's not my position to say whether or not this is the right course of action for the building. I don't know. It might be better than the best even. What I do know is that it's a contributing building, and the basis of that contributing status is the current facade. And anything that you do to remove the current facade is going to change it to non-contributing. The work proposed here does not meet the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, nor do they really intend it to, which again is fine. But if I have to wear the hat of Historic Preservation Officer, then I would recommend that you withhold endorsing this project, recognizing that it may be the correct thing to do, and recognizing that whatever you say doesn't really matter at this point. They're going to do what they want. But from a preservation perspective, and solely a preservation perspective with preservation blinders, this isn't in keeping with the Secretary of the Interior's standards, and it reduces it from contributing to non-contributing, and maybe diminishes that portion of the district by being an unsympathetic intrusion. That's a judgment call.
Like I said, there's a lot of folks that may walk around and not, like you said, not know the difference. We understand that. But, we spent, 30 years trying to regroup from what, the things that happen in our downtown area. And, we're trying to get a paradigm shift now. We're trying to bring that ethic back. And, like I said, right, wrong, or indifferent, we still have a lot there, and we want to maintain it as well as we can. So, I don't know if that's exactly.
But I will
what
tell you
want.
that I'm working at Fond du Lac, they're doing the same thing, they're trying to make their downtown a section of a historic district, and there are some buildings that just aren't salvageable. It's a way of life.
If
There's some buildings that aren't
If you
salvageable.
look at the neighborhood, this neighborhood, when, going way back, when Associated Bank, which was the Kellogg's Bank then,
Right.
built in the corner, Werner Schober did it, the nice glass one that they look at. That building is getting up there in age. It's ultra-modern. It's probably one of the best-looking buildings in the whole Green Bay, De Pere, Ashwaubenon area. Look at it from across the street. They did it with marble, they did it with glass, they did it with precast concrete. It looks like it was just built yesterday. They keep it up. So would you call that a historic building? I'd
Yes,
say,
It is a
yeah.
contributing building.
And it is what it is. When you go diagonally across the street, where, next to C Street, on the corner there, you know, that building sat vacant for years and years and years. And if you stand back, I've been asked, living in Green Bay, to look at that shower, Jim, I got all these buildings over and over, and nothing ever happens with them, right? That building sat empty forever, and finally now Wells Fargo or somebody's in there. But if you look at it architecturally, it's a terrific building. But it isn't 1870, it was probably 1947 to be exact. And across the street or
What was that,
something.
Bill?
Huh?
Well, I mean, is it a?
Then across the street where Citizen Security was, you remember that thing where Boss's News Depot?
Okay, I wasn't here at the time.
Okay, anybody who was here. All right, that was the Masonic Temple. And the Masonic Temple was a wood frame building, pretty much like Pat's building, with some brick on it, and they had a massive fire, lucky it didn't burn down the whole neighborhood. And it sat there, and it sat there, and it sat there. I've never been a Mason in my life, but they couldn't find an architect, and so they came, and I designed the one that's out there in, by Rock Gardens, the temple. No windows, no nothing. They went out there and built a new building because they wouldn't fit here, they wanted a parking lot and everything. And somebody came along and said, you know, there's been a vacant fire hole in the ground over here on the corner of Adams and Cherry or whatever it is. And we're gonna put a building there. So they did, one story. All I've ever heard over the years was, what an ugly building, it's a one-story building. Well, it was an ugly lot for about 3 years that nobody wanted. And that's when you did what they did. But if you drive past it, it's a building of the series of the 70s. So you gotta keep upping the ante every 10 years or whatever it is, as times change. And all the buildings you build today, 100 years from now, some of them are gonna be historic buildings.
Maybe so.
And that's where the story goes, is the Associated Bank is a beautiful building, and you can call it whatever architecture you want, but it's gonna be tagged for how long it's been there. It's never gonna be knocked down in a long time.
Okay.
Might be
Just for
used
the
art lot.
record, the CA Gross building is built in what, 1928?
28, the Frankenthal building, it was the
Frankenthal.
Katie
Yeah.
Bernard.
Right, but remodeled with new windows and all the other stuff that
Yes,
went in.
there's actually an addition to it that's identical to the historic stuff that was
Right.
put on in 1991, thereabouts.
Yes, yes.
Well, anyway, I don't know if there's any other comments, otherwise we'll have to talk. I appreciate you gentlemen coming in, and I understand the scope of the project. I think, you know, you put a lot of time and effort into it. I know, Pat, you run a great business, and, you know, I've been there. And we want, you know, I mean, with the Hotel Northland coming into the fray soon, you know, that's gonna it's gonna bring, you know, some other development and things coming in, and it'll benefit your business as well. I'm kind of torn on this. Like I said, we are the Historic Preservation Commission, we are advisory. You know, whatever we say, you know, you can go ahead with your plans. You know, it's not a problem. You know, whether or not you'll have the blessing of our group remains to be seen in our vote. But, you know, I guess the part that I'm torn about is the fact that, okay, there's safety issues. You know, you have the fires and things like that. You know, there are times where things get altered because of what happens out there. So that is my concern. I do listen to what, Susan brought up too, about, having it look like another building that, you would see in the suburbs somewhere. We're trying to maintain a sense of integrity. Jason brings up the fact that it is Art Deco. You got a lot of little different things going on. You have two different buildings, and now I find out it's two different support systems, if you will, on top of the brick. And we're more interested in the facade. That's what we do. What you guys do on the inside as a whole, that's up to you folks.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want on the inside,
Yeah.
our concern is the exterior. Can we ask this, Mark? Pardon me for-
Yeah, go ahead. No.
Can we see more specific examples of what you're planning to do with the exterior? I imagine this marbleized, so we really have a
Is
better
this
grasp of
cast
what-
in stone, like final? I know you've been working on this for a long time, but this is really the first time we've
Yes.
had a chance to digest this. So is
What might be helpful
time
maybe?
sensitive? Is this time sensitive as well?
Yes. Yeah, but what might be
Obviously.
helpful, to your point, is to have something that is more dimensional in nature, to visually be able to see it. When you look at the materials that we have there, that can show dimension, but this still shows flat, right? That is something that we could provide to show a different dimension of what the building will look like probably from this angle. But as far as changing the structure as to what it's going to look like, no. We're past that point now. We're having trouble, in fact, the building, everything has to be completed as you see it by the end of this year. So the project is released now. So we have to address the front of the building this year.
Yeah, like I said, you obviously talked inspection and planning
Yep.
and such, and what was their take on all of this? Just waiting.
We have to go, last week we had a meeting with the tech committee?
Tech review team.
Tech review team. Then we need to come and speak with you. Then all of our plans are finished for the most part, they're just being submitted now to Chad, correct? But this had to happen before we could do that.
Right.
Since Chad wouldn't take it any further if we
Well,
hadn't come.
I think as long as, you all understand that, there's nothing personal at all with this. We're looking at it strictly from, our purview, what we look at and what we feel is good for the integrity of the community. And I know, Ben, you've done hundreds of these throughout your life, and I applaud you for that. But like I said, I feel that, I don't know, we could talk about this for a while, but I think we should vote. So,
I was wondering, Jason, in regard to the density of the historic buildings in Green Bay, this particular structure is pretty much in the center of the main cluster of historic buildings, or is it a little bit off to the
toward
side?
the top, it's toward
What would
the,
be the effect of this pulling out of the system?
This by itself won't cause that portion of the district to fall out of its designation.
So how many buildings would be affected by that?
Well, it's the same as how many licks does it take to get to the center, or what straw was it that broke the back? I can't answer that. What I can say is that the nearby Pierrot building, just on the opposite side of the chop house, is non-contributing. And as a whole district, there are very few non-contributing buildings, so you'll have two kind of right side by each together, so to speak.
So kind of in the middle of the cluster?
so,
No, it's to the north end of the cluster.
north end.
Okay.
So is this, if this is one contiguous project, then it's considered one structure,
no,
so to speak? Would this still be
That's still
contributing?
contributing.
This will be contributing.
The other one is a separate building,
that was-
will be rendered non-contributing.
And right now, it is considered contributing?
Yes,
Right.
it's eligible for tax credits.
So this will still maintain, even
Yep.
though, okay. Well, that makes me feel a little better, in that sense. So,
Provided that there's no future plan to put a new facade on that one, which I don't hear.
well, my
any-
feeling is, you've been in business for 10 years, my feeling is that you're going to maintain this and move forward, and, it's not, you put some time and effort into it. All right, I think we've talked about this long enough. I would entertain a motion to either approve or disapprove, so I can't do that. I'd put
I
it,
call a motion to approve.
do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I,
Aye. So,
really, on the grounds if we
It-
had an actual sample of what you were
Okay.
doing. Like, we have people come in, we're doing a roof, and they bring in a shingle sample. This is the color, this
Oh,
is what it
sure.
looks like. Or they bring in the pamphlet from the windows, or whatever. You know, this was just really kind of brushed off, as far as I'm concerned, as to what this outside is going to look like. And that's our big concern, and that's why you're here.
yeah, we didn't really have a
We
lot of
understand,
information for
you know,
this.
structural stuff on the inside, yeah, whatever you're told to do, great, you can do whatever you want on the inside. Our concern is the outside.
And you said it's time sensitive, so that kind of holds us with our backs to the wall too.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have really a lot of time to digest this, so when you say time sensitive, I mean, is this something that if you came back to us and somehow appeased,
Like our
Us.
next meeting, or we could have a special
or
meeting.
we
We've
could
done
have a special meeting in 2
meetings.
weeks, we've done that. Now, if you're up for that, and, you know, just come back forward with the concerns that we raised, if you can address those, we will be more than happy to revote. We can do that. Is that something, would you be amenable to that?
I am. a
You're ready to
sympathizer
go.
a fellow businessman, and I will be here whenever you need.
But as Mark has pointed out, I mean, we could all vote against it, and you can
Still go
walk
ahead.
in and get your permit tomorrow morning, it doesn't make.
If
any
you're
difference.
amenable
You've
to
done
that-
what you're supposed to do, is come before us, we voiced our opinion.
Right. Well, we have to proceed. Coming back to clarify some of the fronts, I'm fine with doing that. But we still need to proceed.
Might I offer, since we've already voted on this, we can also have that come on as informational at our next meeting, or they could supply the material samples to me, you guys can come into my office whenever to view, just to get a better
You know, I
feel
think
for
just
it.
for the sake of us feeling better that way, it failed, for lack of a,
Well, Pat will be going through the submittal process with us, and when we submit, then we'll have samples. That's a good time, we can
Bring
bring over
samples in.
the approved samples at that time.
Yeah, we'd like for you to see it. We want you to get on board as best you can. Understood that the position is really, from a historical perspective, it isn't going to allow us to stay in that designation, but do we want you to be more comfortable with what we're putting up, that we're not putting up a shopping mall looking product? Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm okay with bringing it back.
Yeah.
Stephanie, is that something that we would just do at our next meeting? Or is it something that we'd have to?
Well, we either have to hold it here and then bring it forward at the next meeting as another regular business item, or we could just have them come back as informational.
As
an
informational.
Yeah,
update.
but we're not
Are you
holding
okay
them
with
up
that?
to.
Either way, it's not
Yeah.
held. You
Yeah.
guys do it or not.
I would say as informational.
And
So
we're-
I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stone sills and stuff, there's, cast stone, it's made very similar actually to what Ephes is.
Well, like I said,
So
I mean-
when you polish it out, it'll look like
I
limestone.
mean, this looks nice and all, but, you know, it would have been nice to have a little bit more.
Well, you're losing, what you're really losing, a couple of things. If you go by Republic right now, if you look at the front of his
Yeah.
existing thing, you know, he's got a pretty nice planter along there, that's always kept up. And it does well, it faces the right direction. We have a nice patio going to complement
No,
that.
I'm sure.
And when you see the patio and we get the right colors and the right furniture and the whole thing, I'm telling you, it's gonna look pretty nice. And I have no concerns about, juggling some of the finishes around, but we're using stone that's there. Mankato stone is a stone out of Minnesota. It's very historic, used in a lot of buildings in the Midwest. We're
You
using.
know, I would even entertain each of the committee members, if we get a chance, if we can come over and see something ahead of time, we would be willing to do that too.
We would
On our own.
coordinate that through you,
Mhm.
correct?
Why don't you do that?
Yep,
Yeah, we
I
can show you.
I would appreciate
I'd
it.
Sure.
like to see the project, yeah.
sure.
Okay?
Okay, that sounds great.
All right,
Thank
thank you,
Thank you.
gentlemen. You bet.
You want that brick?
For a paperweight?
I got one from my high school,
This
from
is-
1988, I got a brick from my high
We're
school in
opening
Milwaukee.
probably mid-December.
That was a big
I
project.
apologize.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
about
gonna take this long.
40,000
Come on.
staying here,
Yeah.
kicking about the building next
Come
door.
on up.
It's gonna be about
Actually-
127 rooms.
Were you
Yeah.
a yes or no
I
on
mean, not
that?
even.
I just
I
read
wasn't
about that
know.
in the paper.
You have a card?
I do. I
Is
just
there-
read about
Is there a
that.
slim
send you- I'll
chance I
send you
could
what the
take,
design
I'm
plans
supposed to
are.
be at a 5:30 meeting, can I just
What's
You gotta
that?
slam dunk. Can we just slam dunk this one?
I saw that
Slam
on
dunk.
one of the.
slam dunk it? Okay. All right, let's get to our
News
next point.
programs.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, we gotta run.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, next, thank you, Brian, for being patient. Consideration with possible action on a sign permit application for 131 North Broadway. We worked on trying to get a special meeting for some time, back and forth, and then, the committee, I think we worked hard to try to make that happen.
They did their job. It turned out that the sign installer hadn't submitted the permit, which we thought they had. So-
Okay,
So here we are. So
Here we are.
essentially, I mean, it's a business in the district that moved locations. They just want to move their sign to the new building.
And, we've looked at this, and like I said, we went back and forth about the sign itself and such, but you being on OBI, you had no problem with it, you felt good with it. I'm fine with it as well, too. So,
Same here.
so I entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the sign.
A second,
Second?
by Susan Lee, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Who says government's not efficient?
We had you first, though.
We should have done that first.
I would have been sitting here anyway. I'm going to the
Yeah,
same meeting as Mark, so.
yeah. Are you going on to P&W?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got a couple of big issues on it.
Can you just tell them that I'll be down in 5 minutes?
Very good.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I should have amended that. Oh, well. Informational review, June and July 2018 building the activity report. Is there anything that stands out at all? Stephanie, these are a lot easier since we used to
Oh, yeah.
have many, many pages of these.
Oh,
This
easier
is,
to read.
this is 10 times what it used to be.
So it looks like Helen Keller is having a big project, addition. That's really not historic in a sense. Helen Keller School, it's over on Bond Street.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Helen Keller was
I
historic.
thought, yeah. Just threw me.
I didn't mean it that way. Well, I don't see anything. Does anybody, otherwise I'd entertain a motion to receive it and place on file.
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye, all opposed? Next, review city raised repair orders and demolitions.
There's not very many.
Jason, anything here that of note?
No, I think I included photographs, yes, there they are.
Garfield, I've seen that house, is that? It's kind of an interesting little house, I've been by there a few times.
The one on Garfield?
The other apartment, went past,
Yeah, that's for the road, I think.
it was a big building.
So at Garfield in the second photo, I know it's a little hard to see, but the window casing on the side there, near the front of the house, that's all missing at the top.
Which address again?
216 Garfield.
Yes, right.
And the razor repair order cited deteriorating walls, windows, doors, tuck pointing foundation, plumbing, electrical, cleaning.
It just looks like it has,
Is that all?
what's that, other than
When
that,
they show up,
other
they
than that, how
read
is
the
it?
stuff. New driveway,
But it looks like just an interesting little style, and I was just wondering.
It's cute, it's a minimal traditional style.
Minimal traditional.
Yes,
There you
generally
go.
post-war, but could be a little before the war.
Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, I would ask for this to be received and placed in file.
Hey, just fun point there on the last one, the 143 Cleveland. That's not a razor repair, but that's a razor remove. They don't even give you the chance to fix it up because the
Wow.
repair cost exceeds 50% of assessed value.
So there was a fire, obviously?
Yeah.
Either. Yeah, all right, well, I
Got
guess,
the turkey in the deep fryer or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
all right. So, I'd like to have someone bring this forward to receive and place on file. Let's
So
Susan? Do we have a second? Second by Dave Boyce, all in favor? Aye, all opposed, that passes. Staff updates?
Two quick things. So they are doing work at the lighthouses that are 100 Bay Beach Road. The lighthouses themselves are not being altered at all, but they are being lifted off of the platform, so that way they can redo the concrete slab underneath. So we're just letting you know in case you drive by and you're like, what are they doing with the
What's going
lighthouses?
on
They're
with the
doing nothing with the
lighthouses?
lighthouses, but they're fixing the concrete underneath.
Okay.
Second thing is that the ordinance has its final reading at next week's city council meeting on the 21st. So by
Either.
then, we should know if we have new ordinance or not to play with, so.
You're feeling pretty good. I haven't had much pushback at all, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. Kudos again to both of you for all the work you've done.
Thank
We're
you.
very-
Thank you.
And to the committee as well, and to all the different committee members we've had over the years that have persevered, literally, trying to get things going.
Is that 6 o'clock, the meeting?
Yes, 6 o'clock a week from tomorrow. All right, next meeting date, Monday, September 10th at 4:15 in this room. A motion to adjourn, do we have one?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
So
Thank you.
when will this committee be distributed?
With this, well, let's flip up.